And I just have to hit nothing, right? Just
Right,
hit
you're
this stuff
good.
when I'm done. Sweet.
Just, hit this button when you're done.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hello, sports friends. We're here to talk Packers and Giants with you on WBAY.com, streaming as well on our YouTube and Facebook pages. I encourage all of you to ask your questions following that Monday night loss to the Eagles via Facebook, and I'll try to answer as many as I can here tonight on Action 2 News' digital news desk takeover. We'll be doing this every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. First things first, let's do an injury update for you. Romeo Doubs is good to go despite the chest injury that knocked him out of Monday Night Football last week. That is good news for a receiving core that has been ailing. Of course, Tucker Kraft's a tight end, but he's part of that. And last week when they couldn't get it done, scoring just 7 points, at the end they were down Romeo Doubs. Of course, Jaden Reed's been on IR, Tucker Kraft on IR, tearing his ACL. They also didn't have Matthew Golden. Golden will be worked back into practice this week, LaFleur says. They'll see if he's able to go this weekend in New York. On the New York side of things, all their big names on offense now out. Jackson Dart concussion protocol already announced by the interim coach Kafka that it will be Jameis Winston, not Russell Wilson, starting at quarterback for the Giants. And you could view that as either a good thing or a bad thing. Jameis is Dr. Jekyll. He's also Mr. Hyde. You'd think he'd be prone to interceptions, which in his career he has been. But I think Packer fans remember the season opener in 2022 when he beat Aaron Rodgers 38-3. Jameis Winston only 148 passing yards that day, but 5 touchdowns, no picks, while Rodgers had no touchdowns and multiple INTs. So we shall see. It's once again a week in which the Packers defense is getting ready for not the standard operating procedure by the opponents at the quarterback position. Remember, they faced a backup in Jacoby Brissett. They faced Joe Flacco right after he was traded to Cincinnati. They had to prepare for Bryce Young or the backup, Andy Dalton, or a third stringer when Bryce Young had missed the prior game with an ankle, and now this. Again, we're live on WBAY.com as well as our Facebook and YouTube streams. Be sure to ask your questions on Facebook for us whenever you get a chance. I think one of the biggest questions fans may have, I'm trying to anticipate here, is what is wrong with the Packers offense and what's Matt LaFleur going to do about it? Today he talked about a number of topics. He expressed belief in his team, and he promises, as frustrated as fans are, he says he is even more frustrated but still has belief in the team. And when you're really looking to diagnose the problems of the Packers offense, I think it starts up front with the offensive line, and that's before the injury to Elton Jenkins, of course, breaking his leg Monday night. I failed to mention at the top of the show, Matt LaFleur thinks it's highly unlikely that Jenkins will play again this season. Well, they were searching for the best 5 on the O-line, platooning at time with right guard between Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan. At this point, they got 5 that they'll really want to play. Ryan will be the center moving forward. The former first-round pick, Jordan Morgan, will be the right guard. That's how they're going to roll and hope that those players can stay healthy. And perhaps the run game can get healthy against the Giants to help everyone else out, because that run defense in New York is pretty porous. I think that defense is 27th in scoring, 29th total defense, and they're dead last against the run. They're giving up like 5.5 yards per carry. I asked Jordan Love today, what would it be like? Would it change the picture for you as a quarterback if you can rip off 5.5 yards per carry? And he said, yeah, that would change some things for him. I think when you look at the O-line, right now it's a problem because the Packers are seeing those soft shell defenses, and they're supposed to be able to run against those light box looks. They're not really getting that job done so far, even despite the fact that they have an all-world running back in Josh Jacobs who can make something out of nothing. The other problem, I think, is the receiver injuries, yes, but also Tucker Kraft. When he went down injured, I thought it would be the death knell, perhaps, for Super Bowl aspirations. I think the Packers can beat any team on any given week, but I think, especially now that they're situated in the 7th spot in the NFC, likely, unless they climb back atop the North and move their way up the standings, likely have to win a lot of road games. Asking any team, especially an inconsistent one like the Packers, to win 3 straight away from home to get to the Super Bowl is a tall order. But I think when the offensive line is not giving holes for the run game, when Jordan Love is trying to work the ball against 2-shell defenses, I think he's also anticipating pressure when it's not there at times, and he's trying to do too much. You saw the fumble in the first half against the Eagles last week. I think that is case in point. He admitted as much when I asked him the question today at the Packers locker room availability that, yes, it's doing too much. He has to eat that ball. I feel like at times when the Packers are struggling, which they have in all 3 losses, they've scored 7 points, 10, and 13 in 3 losses. They scored 40 in a tie. They've scored 27 many times in wins, 30 plus in another. It's just weird right now. When they are struggling, he wants to make something happen, and he isn't perhaps as patient as he would otherwise be. And I think he's a pretty darn smart quarterback. He reads out his progressions. He looks at the defense, chooses the run or the pass with the can calls. But I think that one play is indicative of some of the issues for this team. Because of the O-line issues not creating the ground game holes, because of the receivers being injured and out, because of the intermediate throws to the tight end with his yak attack aren't working so well, I think Jordan at times is trying to do too much. And in a game like that, and like Carolina, and like Cleveland, that are low-scoring affairs that the Packers aren't used to, you have to practice patience. When you're in scoring territory, you have to take advantage. You have to hold on to that ball. You have to maximize the chance to get 3 more than you would in other games. When you look at perspective on this game, we've got a question. Are key injuries really, isn't key injuries that has really impacted the game more than coaching decisions, since they're 13 points away from being 9-0? I think that's a good point. And I'm talking to you about Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed and Romeo Dobbs missing the end, Matthew Golden missing the game. I think that's a big deal. A coach's job is to be a fixer. A quarterback's job is to adapt to the realities around him. That's why you pay him $55 million a year. You have to be able to solve these problems and win different types of ways. For all the warts the Bears have had over the years, they've won a lot of different ways. When they had that shootout with the Bengals, their quarterback Caleb Williams said, hey, this is the one thing we hadn't done. We won a shootout when we had to have it. And the Bears came from behind to beat the Giants. The Packers for years have been a team that finds a way to win, and Chicago's been the team that finds a way to lose. The Packers have to find a way to win the types of games that they're going to be encountering all season long. Some low scoring, some high scoring. And especially with the defense you have, other teams are going to be a little more conservative against you. And I think you're going to have to win some low scoring games at times. If you're looking at the Packers defense, they're not pointing fingers. You look at like the Cincy locker room, that offense pointing the finger at the defense a couple of weeks ago, Chase Brown saying, get one effing stop or something to that effect. You're not seeing that. Micah Parsons in the locker room Monday night. He wasn't saying it's sunshine and rainbows, but what was he saying? He's saying he had immense belief in the offense and the team to get it done and win a lot of games. And to our questioner's point, they are just a few points, 10 points in fact, from being 9-0. They've missed kicks in every loss this year. They had an extra point blocked in the tie that was 40-40. And I'm not sitting here to tell you that this team should be undefeated. They should not. They have to carry the L's that they have amassed on this season. It has not been great at many times this year. But they are just a few plays away from winning these games. They just haven't made the plays. I went back. From the press box view, you get one view of the game. When you watch back all the replays in fine detail, you get another view of a contest as well. And I went back and watched the entirety of the broadcast, and you see all the replays. The Packers were so close to hitting a ton of big plays, right? The one that hit off Christian Watson's helmet, the 22-yarder to Watson was called back for illegal formation. The end of the game scenarios where Jordan could have led both Wicks on the second to last drive and Watson on the last drive more towards the boundary and perhaps hit big ones to get you in field goal range. Josh Jacobs turning the wrong way instead of going to the flat. They had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and they stubbed their toes and didn't get into scoring range and didn't score the points to win the game. You look at the Eagles, they were bottled up all night. Really, the two big plays they hit led to that touchdown. They got into third and long, dumped it out at the line of scrimmage to Saquon, made Carrington Valentine miss, and he went like 41 yards. The very next play, I believe it was 34 yards to Devontae Smith. Evan Williams was right there in coverage, but Devontae Smith's a former Heisman winner, and he can make the tough catch at the catch point. He beat Evan Williams on the play, and just like that, those two plays are made by the defending champ, and they win the game on the road. The Packers are so close to making so many plays, they just need to make them to win these games. I think the Giants game is a game they should win, just like Cleveland, just like Carolina. Those were games they should have won. And I'll be here honest with you. Going into both the Cleveland game and Carolina game, I had a sneaking suspicion that those games were going to be a lot harder for this Packers team than they should be. I have the exact same feeling about this trip to New York. Currently, the forecast calls for rain overnight Saturday into Sunday morning. If that persists into the game, it would be a third straight game in which weather kind of plays a role. It's been windy the last 2 weeks with the losses. Does that negate the Packers' advantage, perhaps, with some of the passing game going against a third stringer, Jameis Winston, stepping up to the number one spot right now? We'll see. I think the thing that the Packers are really happy about is that Giants' run defense. Maybe you can get well on the ground. And maybe that can make it easier for you to get a win away from home on a short week. The team holding just a walkthrough today as opposed to a normal Wednesday practice. Again, if you have any more questions, we're here for a couple more minutes before we get ready for Action 2 News at 6. But I encourage your questions on our Facebook page, the stream there, and I'll try to answer them if I can. When you look at the team at this point in the season, the players in the locker room feel that they have a great squad. But greatness isn't on paper. It's not necessarily even a mindset. It's what you produce. You are what your record is. It bears true in the NFL. Right now, the Packers sit in 7th. The Niners in 8th have more wins. They're 6-4. They haven't had a bye week yet. The Packers 5-3-1. Green Bay needs to get this one because right now they're about to go into the most crucial games of the year in terms of getting into position for the playoffs, and those are divisional games. After this, they got their 3 division foes, one after another after another. Vikings at home, Lions short week Thanksgiving, home to the Bears, and they still have trips to Chicago and Minnesota later on down the stretch at home, on the road as well. So they've got to figure it out. They've got to find their identity. They've got to get things going and perhaps be more aggressive with a passing game instead of trying to be run past bounce, instead of doing things always by the book. Jordan Love was asked today whether he would like to be more aggressive, and he said absolutely. What quarterback wouldn't want to be more aggressive? I think it's a matter of doing that without turning the ball over. The Packers are not turnover prone. They have just 6 giveaways all season. But the ones they have are the sort of turnovers that aren't a tip ball here, a punch out there. They're plays when Jordan Love's trying to make a lot out of little. You go back to the interception in Cleveland at the end. That was really costly. That's one that if it's not there, you just got to not make that throw. The fumble against the Eagles wasn't there. He admitted should have not done that. The one against Carolina into triple coverage. Man, the last 2 weeks, the Packers losing 2 home games that were eminently winnable. I think they had 5 straight drives Monday night in which they crossed the 50. I think only one of those times did they score eventually with that touchdown. The red zone trips gone awry where they started 0-for-4 against Carolina. Situational football is where things are won and lost in the NFL. We've got another question. How much will the surprise opponent's strengths, like the Chicago Bears now leading the division, have on the rest of the schedule for win? I don't think it's a surprise that the Bears are improved. I also think the Bears are about to get a reality check, so to speak. Let me pull my phone out. They're about to go from the easiest schedule thus far to one of the toughest down the stretch. They still have the Browns, which is a very winnable game for them. You would normally say with how the Steelers are reeling that would be, but Aaron Rodgers, as you remember, owns Soldier Field. Last thing here, let's talk about the rest of the division. The sky is not falling. I mean, Tucker Craft is what it is. You could still do what you want to do. It's just going to be hard to do. But let's look at the Bears' schedule coming up. So this weekend at the Vikings, never an easy place to play. Steelers at home, Aaron Rodgers owns Soldier Field. At the Eagles, at Green Bay, you get the Browns. Then home to Green Bay, at San Francisco, against Detroit. Remember when the Bears fell apart and had a double-digit losing streak before winning at Lambeau in the finale? I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but we're going to find out a lot about the Bears down the stretch here because that schedule gets a lot tougher. And if you want to look at the Lions, they go to Philly this week. The Packers, I think, you want to get home games in the playoffs, right? So you want your division rival to take one on the chin, even though it's really tough to win in Philly, and it would be nice to see them lose a few more games if you're a Packer. But the Lions at Philly, then they get the Giants, Packers, Dallas, Rams. That's going to be a tough one for them. Pittsburgh, we'll see how that team shakes out. At Minnesota, at Chicago. I think if you're looking at the schedules down the stretch, Detroit's and Green Bay's are comparable. Chicago's is a lot tougher down the stretch. The Packers are a half game back of both right now. If you had to ask me who probably will win the division, I would say it's going to be the winner of that Thanksgiving Day game. I mean, obviously teams could take one on the chin when you don't expect it, but that one's going to be monumental. And the Packers have to find a way to keep holding serve. They haven't done it with the games they should win thus far. We'll see if they do so Sunday. Let's see. One more question. Are the Packers using Golden to his full potential? Seems like they rely heavily on Jacobs, and granted he moves the ball little by little, but something else is needed. I think if you were to ask us coming out of the amazing training camp that the rookie Matthew Golden had, if we'd be sitting here saying he hasn't scored a touchdown all season long, I would have said that's ludicrous. He must have had some season-ending injury. he missed the game here, but he really hasn't had that huge impact thus far. I really think he can. I think Matthew Golden is a really, really good receiver. And his opportunities are going to have to not just be opportunities, they're going to have to be production that he puts forward on the field. Of course, everyone plays a part in that. Jordan Love, the O-line, the play calling, Matthew himself. I can't wait to see what he can do down the stretch as well, because when you take the first-round receiver in over 2 decades around here, there are expectations, and those expectations are because the talent is there. And I think that they can get some stuff done with him should he get healthy and should they be able to block it up, because he can catch the ball, he can do yak attack, he's speedy as well. I've got to get ready right now for Action 2 News at 6. Thank you for joining us on our live streams today, and we will catch you next Wednesday at 5:30 on the web stream, and we'll see you, of course, during Action 2 News at 5, 6, and 10, and in the morning all week.